I've got to be a bit careful about this subject, guys, because I've got 3 girls, 6, 4 and 3, and you talk about the things that you missed beforehand, you can get yourself into a really deep water here. But I haven't been a big one for going out clubbing in bars and stuff like that, but I've always played a lot of sport, and I suppose that was one of the things I felt really guilty about. And the other thing is that my chosen sport that I would naturally go out and play automatically is cricket. And that is the first thing which, for a start, I have to say my missus doesn't really understand cricket, doesn't like the game as much as I do. So, you know, the thought about leaving at 10 o'clock in the morning, see you at 8, yeah, that's really going to go down well. So, I mean, that was a thing which sort of suffered a little bit. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've got an average back above 15 almost.
Well, congratulations on still being married if she doesn't like cricket. That's fantastic. I think this is a problem because Ed was a happy accident. We hadn't planned him, and both our careers were going really well at the time. And this was a thing that most people said to me, it's going to be a problem. It'll be a problem for both of you because your lifestyles are, you know, you've got quite hectic lifestyles, you go out a lot, it's going to be... And of all the things that worried me after Ed was born, that was probably the least worrying because we really adapted quite quickly to having Ed there. And it was, for us, it was a really positive change. And I think the one thing that I really missed of having the baby was flexibility. That was the only thing. Because we were living a life whereby at 10 o'clock at night you could suddenly say, oh, let's go out, let's do something. Yeah. So it was a little tiny bit of hedonism that we missed, which it's not bad in the great scheme of things. And being compensated by having a fantastic child in the house, it didn't bother me. I mean, because he thought, well, yes, I do miss that a little bit, but on the other hand, look, this is fantastic. So it was such a good thing. It was such a positive thing in our lives that I find it difficult to actually think now, this 9 years after, if anything, I do miss, really.
I agree with you on that to a point where I didn't realise what I'd missed until a couple of years later, because at the time you're thinking, hold on a second, this is nuts. Yeah. You know, it is really like, baby, I feel like a man. Yeah, you know, because I had a child quite early, still in my early 20s, and I was like, hold on a second, you know, I'm pushing around the kid, it's all responsibility now. So, you know, everything that my mates were doing at the time, which was partying and being irresponsible and sort of still, you know, chasing after the girls, I was like, no, I'm here. Isn't this what we all aspire to? And then, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, never really. There you go. Hold on a second. It'd be good to get back out again. If I'm really honest about it, I think I'd just kind of look back every now and again. Wouldn't it be great to just sort of caution to the wind, go out there again and see what it's all like, and can I still dance, or whatever the case may be, I think.
Well, can you dance before?
I was a really great dancer before, but I was like, I'm sure people aren't doing this anymore.
I think I'll tell you one thing we did miss. We missed doing things together, because most of my social life was based around work anyway. So I'd do a gig, then I was working 3 or 4 nights a week, and you'd stay on after the gig and with comics and drink or whatever. So we tended, for the first couple of years, we hardly did anything together. I mean, I was touring for the 6 months of the first year, so my routine didn't change drastically anyway. So I'm sure Ali's answer would be different. I'm sure she missed a lot more things because she was obviously tied down a lot more than I was. But I think that's the biggest miss. Apart from that,
I think it's easier for us when we can go straight back to work a couple of weeks later, and then you sort of socialise at work, and it's kind of a couple of lads are going out for a drink after work tonight. But the spontaneity, as you said, when you're sitting home and think, oh, I fancy going out for a Chinese or something, and when that stops, that's really I found that really noticeable. It's just you just can't do it anymore.
Because I have to say, our lives didn't change that. I mean, in terms of, you could still go out during the day, but you just had somebody else with you, so you just had to sort of, it just took you longer to get out of the house. I mean,
I think our friends changed. I don't know if yours did, but our friends started to change. I mean, I didn't see so many of my sort of buddies. There was more family members. There was a kind of different kind of sector. We started sitting around the table and eating.
I didn't miss people said, oh, you'll miss the peace and quiet. You'll miss. I didn't miss any of that. And the compensations are such that you put up with the noise and the smell.
I think we also made a point with our first Tamara. We took her to restaurants. We had we had the car seat, and she would be plonked on top of on the table, and all of our mates, they would love it. And you know, Tamara became a very social child because from that age up until 3 or 4, she was able to hold a conversation as well, sort of thing. So that was quite interesting, and we found that really developed her vocal.
I think we suffered a little bit from what you were talking about before, about actually not doing things together, because we had our 3 quite so close together. It would often be, we didn't have any support services close by, so we didn't have the sort of the grandparents just around the corner or something along those lines. So it was like a major deal organising sort of babysitters, and we also lived quite out in the sticks as well. So those things are on your doorstep. So we had that problem. So inevitably it got to the stage where, well, you go out, Teresa, and I'll stay and look after the child. And that is just a recipe for an absolute disaster.
Well, you mentioned the magic word there, grandparents. If people say to me now, what advice would you give? I'd say, make sure your grandparents live around the corners. My mum and dad live around the corner. It's a godsend. For the first 2 years, it was just fantastic because
it saves you a fortune.
Well, it does, but it did also mean that every now and again we could snatch a few hours together because we trusted them to look after Ed. We could actually grab a couple of hours to go home. It's few and far between because when they're that young, you don't want to.
Yeah,
be
I was going to say, my wife was very protective.
Exactly.
She was like, God, come on, just leave the children.
But also, if I wasn't working, if I was at home, I used to really look forward to getting home and being at home. And sometimes the last thing I wanted to do was to go out again. I'm perfectly happy just sitting staring at the baby in the corner. You know, just.
So when we were talking about, me and my wife were talking about that time where you used to be able to just say, right, let's go out tonight. When we actually looked at it, that happened very rarely in our lives anyway, before the baby.
It's funny,
you actually think that it happened a lot more, but it didn't really.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what might be interesting is that you and I share the same sort of timings as far as children's concerned, but we've had quite a big gap, and I have found that sort of when our second child came along, that I've sort of got into golf, so I've still sort of had a sort of minor gap, and then so I still carried on playing, but I'd make sure I'd get out extra early, the first tee, get back really early, that type of thing.
Even do the first feed before you go.
Exactly. I'd make sure everything was set up, back organised. I might have to go swimming, so I was still doing my part, but I had to have that release, so I think that was important. So I sort of, with my second child, I made a point of making sure I didn't necessarily give that much up.
Yeah. Did you do that because of your experience with the first child, or because you were just a bit older and a bit more mature anyway?
More mature, more relaxed about it, knew what to anticipate in terms of, okay, you know what, when they're children, they run around, they are going to fall over, this and that might happen. So you take things a lot easier, and if you know that your wife is looking after things first half of the morning. When you come back from golf, you can't come back, put your feet up. You're going to take over, and you literally do everything for the evening. In fact, you kind of lose out a little bit because you'll do the feed, you do everything else. You want to play, you want to roll around, but really just want to have a little nap.
Yeah. Did your wives do anything that they had to give up as well in some respects, and then you try to compensate to get them back out there doing it again? Was there anything that? Karen
used to use the gym quite a lot, which she enjoyed, and she socialised there. And now all her antenatal friends go to the gym and they do the mother workouts and that, and she loves that. And making more friends, and like you said earlier, hanging around with people that have got the kids of the same age. So yeah, she's getting slowly back into that now.
I'd say Ali really missed work. She really
that was the thing, was it?
She really missed going to work because she's always been very hard working anyway. She's one of those people. She validates herself through work, and because she's freelance, she frets anyway if she's not working. But work's very important to her, and working to the best of her ability, and not being able to work, and also because you can't really. In her business, loads of people looking for jobs because she's freelance, and she was worried that if she was out of the job market for a year, then people would forget her. So that she did miss work because she always enjoyed work. And I think it's important for women to have an outlet as well when they've got a child, if there's something else they can do. So she didn't miss the social life at all, but she did miss work, and that caused her some anxiety. And it's strange because for most people, work would be the last thing they would miss. They think that would be a big compensation. Or great, I don't have to work for a year.
But it is right, isn't it, what you were saying as well about the fact that when you really look back on it, that it wasn't as if you were going out that. And I always remember looking back and going, God, we never go to the theatre anymore.
Exactly. It's just a fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. Or art galleries.